I give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High, whose name is Yahweh, in the name of his Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, whose real name is Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit, the Rakakwadash. And those are all of the Paleo-Hebrew names for Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. And the term Bahashim just means in the name of. This is the brother Sagala once again, coming back with another lesson. I'm going to play a short clip from this NBC Channel 2 news entitled, Analysis, Black Defendants in Florida Given Longer Sentences Than Whites. And why am I playing this? Because you so-called blacks, you Negroes, you Latinos, you Native Americans, we are the descendants of Jacob, okay? Not these so-called Jews that are in the land of that nation state of Israel that's proclaiming to be God's people. No, God's people are today in their captivity. Okay? So I'm just going to play this clip. I'm going to let a little bit of it play. I want to give a fair usage warning. Then I'm going to get into some scriptures.
Bias on the bench. An in-depth analysis shows blacks are being given longer prison sentences than whites in Florida, even if they commit the same crime.
In any way, do you think this is racial?
Absolutely. It is racist. It is. It is.
The Florida sentencing system is broken and biased. That's the finding of a study looking at a decade of convictions and sentences.
NBC2 investigator David Hodges has been poring over the results for Southwest Florida, where the problem was also found.
Like most areas across the state, the records compiled by the Sarasota Herald Tribune show black defendants here tend to get longer prison sentences than whites. Tonight, there are many calling for reform.
Be seated. Down.
A Collier County court audience is told to take a seat, but Kyrique Seymour has supporters standing with him.
I am heartbroken.
Alana Roden is Seymour's grandmother.
We're here for him unconditionally, and we're going down with him.
With her is Collier County NAACP President Vincent Keys. He's not there protesting Seymour's innocence, but ensuring he is treated fairly in the courtroom.
Do you think there's an issue with racial bias in the judicial system?
Well, I honestly believe that there's a big bias.
All of us have perhaps a level of implicit bias, and certainly the judges are not immune to that.
Emily LaCause is an investigations editor at the Sarasota Herald Tribune. With her colleagues, she analyzed criminal convictions across Florida from 2004 to 2015.
There were 82 million records.
They found blacks were often receiving longer sentences than whites for the same crime.
We saw that felony drug crimes were often the cause of the greatest disparities.
And the same criminal history.
You would expect that defendants with the same scores would generally receive about the same sentences, but that is absolutely not what we found.
In Lee County, they found blacks are sentenced to an average of 1,586 days in prison when convicted of robbery. Whites are sentenced to 1,090 days. LaCause says their records show whites are more likely to get leniency from judges, a majority of whom are also white.
It looked like from the data, whites were getting less harsh sentences.
According to the Herald Tribune data, Lee County Judge Ramiro Manuelich had some of the greatest disparities in Southwest Florida, sentencing blacks to more than twice the time of whites for drug possession, robbery, and burglary. We wrote Judge Manuelich a letter asking for an interview. Instead, we received a response from the court's public information officer. She says the Herald Tribune didn't account for sentences imposed after a trial by judges versus those agreed upon between prosecutors and defense attorneys ahead of time.
The buck stops with the judge.
We spoke with retired Collier County Judge Frank Baker about the issue, who told us we want to be fair and give the appearance of fairness, but sometimes things play a role in what we do, and you may need to guard against that. He said he doesn't believe implicit bias happens regularly, and that most judges take pride in the fact that justice is blind.
I think it occurs in all of us.
The article has sparked interest from a new group called Showing Up for Racial Justice in Southwest Florida. Rachel Bass is a member and was also at Kyrique Seymour's hearing.
We can't deny, the numbers.
We understand that here in the United States that justice is not blind, okay? The law system, legislation is not blind because it creates these environments where, pertaining to their law, where so-called people get more time than other people, okay? And we talking about you Negroes, you Latinos, you get more time, especially the darker you are, you get more time than your white counterparts, okay? In which the so-called white man is the nation of Edom, okay? Primarily because, you know, your lineage is not based on your skin color, but is based on your race, your forefather. Okay, and race just means seed, and your father carries the seed. So let's get into some of these scriptures. Let's go into James, the second chapter. I think I want the 5th verse. Bear with me. Okay, this verse 13, sorry. So this James chapter 2, verse 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy that hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. Okay, and who, just as that video pointed out, that most of the judges were so-called white men, and they did not have mercy, and judgment was not blind, but it was pertaining and based upon color, who they wanted to give harsher sentences to, or who they wanted to give lenience to. And we all know that, these judges, instead of just killing a person, the people that need to be killed, pertaining to the law of the Lord, which is stated in the Bible, that they swear on in, it says, those that murdered, they need to be killed. Those that rape, okay, they need to be killed. Those that commit bestiality, they need to be killed, and the animal needs to be killed, but they don't uphold that law. So judgment is not blind in this country, because it's not according to the law of the Lord, but judgment has full eyes open to keep our people in a destitute situation and underneath them. Okay, so let's read it again. This James chapter 2, verse 13. For he shall have judgment without mercy that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. And we know these people, they'll give you 200 years. They'll sentence a person 200 years. And the lifespan of an average person is only about 80-something years. So how can you give a person more years, sentence a person more years in prison, being in bondage, than they have years on earth? Because these people, they show no mercy. And, during the coming day of the Lord, these same judges that show no mercy, they're not going to receive any mercy. That's the point in that. Now let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. Okay, because this is the society that we live in, okay? An oppressive society, because in order for the so-called white man, the so-called the Edomite, the biblical Edomite, to be on top, Jacob has to be oppressed. In order for Esau to be on top, Jacob has to be oppressed. Okay, because those are the two main characters in the Bible according to prophecy. Every other race of people and nation of people, they are just extras in the movie. They're just extra characters. So let's go to Isaiah chapter 42. I want to start at verse 21. Start at verse 21. The Lord is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. See, right now, the law is not honorable. Just like I stated, a minute or so ago, that, the Lord's law is not magnified in this country, but they let rapists go free, child molesters, okay? the people that need to be killed, they don't get killed, but they just get tossed in jail for the long sentences or short sentences, depending on how your outward appearance looks. That's how they get sentenced instead of the law of the Lord, okay, which is just. And that's true justice. So verse 21 again, Isaiah chapter 42. The Lord is well pleased, Yahweh is well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He will magnify the law and make it honorable. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. What people is this talking about? This is talking about his people. Okay, you Israelites. Okay, the only people that received the law, statutes, and commandments by the hand of his prophet and his servant Moses. Okay, only one people received the actual laws. But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith restore. Okay, because nobody's going to restore. It doesn't matter how many letters people write them. It doesn't matter about that, because their main goal is to keep you in an oppressed state. Who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? So ultimately, this is the doing of the Lord. Okay. Why is this the doing of the Lord? Because we went after all of these other nations and gods when we were at peace and given our lot and inheritance in our own land. We chose not to keep worshiping God, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, okay, the Father and the Son, but we went after these strange gods, okay? So you can read the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. It gives you the blessings if you do follow the Lord's law, and then it gave Jacob the curses if they went away from the law, okay? From the law of God, from following Yahweh. And right now we are underneath these curses because we chose to not follow the Lord as a people, as a whole. Verse 24, who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Did not the Lord? He against whom we have sinned, for they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. Therefore he hath poured upon him the fury of his anger and the strength of battle, and it hath set him on fire round about. Yet he knew not, and it burned him, yet he laid it not to heart. Okay, just as the old adage says, you play with fire, you get burnt. And what is the Lord? The Lord is a devouring fire. That's what the Lord is. The Lord is a devouring fire. And one precept comes to mind, but I really can't think of it. Bear with me as I try. It goes, who art thou to take up my law? Let's see what comes up. Okay, bam. So this is Psalm chapter 50, verse 16. Let's see the whole thing. But unto the wicked, this is Psalm chapter 50, verse 16. But unto the wicked, God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes? And who is the wicked? You can go to Malachi, the first chapter, and it says Esau is the wicked. So it's round about the third or fourth verse in the first chapter of the book of Malachi. It says that Esau is the wicked, okay? They shall be called the border of wickedness. But unto the wicked, God saith, and the Edomites is the so-called white man today. But unto the wicked, God saith, what hast thou to do to declare my statutes, or that thou shouldest take my covenant in thy mouth, seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee. And just like I said, all of the laws of God, they're not following them, but they will swear in on the Bible in court, but not judge according to the Bible. Seeing thou hatest instruction and castest my words behind thee, when thou sawest a thief, then thou consentest with him, and hast been partaker with adulterers. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. And this is what the law does, it frames deceit. Okay, and just like how this 13th Amendment, how it was supposed to free the slaves, just like how it says they're all of the Lord's people are hid in prison houses. That's because their tongue framed deceit, and their laws are perpetuating us being perpetually in oppression. Okay, that means in continual oppression. And we're going to get into this 13th Amendment because it has something to do with these privately owned prisons and this prison industrial complex, in which when we talking about privately owned prisons, that means normal people can have stock in prisons. And this is why they want to keep Jacob oppressed, and they want to give him longer sentences, him or her. They want to give them longer sentences than they're supposed to be, because the more the prison or even a jail, they get a stipend from the government for every head. And these prisoners, they have jobs. And when they perform these jobs, they're only getting 5 cents, 20 cents, however many cents an hour. Okay, so that's free labor right there. So business is booming right now, and it's primarily off the back of the Lord's people. Okay, so let's get another one, because this is not going to last for long, and that's why it says, he who judges without mercy shall receive no mercy. Because in the coming day of the Lord, guess what's going to happen? The tables are going to turn, and Jacob is going to be on top, and Esau is going to be at the very, very bottom. Just how he has us right now at the very bottom, Esau is going to be at the very bottom. So let's get Psalm 141. Let's start at verse 6. When their judges are overthrown in stony places, they shall hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the grave's mouth, as when one cutteth and cleaveth wood upon the earth. But mine eyes are unto thee, O God the Lord, in thee is my trust. Leave not my soul destitute. Keep me from the snares which they have laid for me. And what's ensnaring us? A lot of these laws keep us ensnared. A lot of these laws and these statutes keep people ensnared. Sort of like the 3 strikes law. That is a snare. And the gins of the workers of iniquity. The crack epidemic, that was a snare, because they framed the law, they framed that mischief with their tongue, and then guess what they did to keep us in prison? They put the drugs into the communities. Okay? Keep me from the snares which they have laid for me, and the gins of the workers of iniquity. Let the wicked fall into their own nets, whilst that I withal escape. And that's a prayer of King David, and the house of David, which is going to be the elect, because at the coming day of the Lord, which is going to be a day that comes with a destruction from the Almighty, okay, which is going to set the world aright. And then the Lord is going to establish a new government on this earth, okay, which reminds me of another precept, Ecclesiasticus chapter 10, I believe. Or is it yes, Ecclesiastes. Let's go. Also called the Book of Sirach, which is an apocrypha book. So let's get that. So let's go Ecclesiastes chapter 10. Verse 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such as one setteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth he casteth away his bowels. The physician cut off a long disease, and he that is today a king tomorrow shall die. Okay, so these people are going to die because today they are in a position of rulership. Okay, just how it also says in Ecclesiastes. Okay, it states in Ecclesiastes, I forget the actual chapter, but it says, just to paraphrase, it says that he sees folly is set in great dignity, the rich sit in low places, and the servants walk as and servants are upon horses, and those horses represent power. So the true slave and the true servant is in power right now, while the rich sit in low places. And why are we rich? Because we are actually the Lord's people. I know I kind of botched that scripture up, so forgive me, Lord, but you know, you go look that up, not reword it, but word it in your Google. But let's go to Obadiah chapter 6. Obadiah chapter 1, verse 6. Let's go. How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? How are the things of Esau searched out? Bam, just like I stated, you can search that up in your Google. Okay, because now their own tongues are falling on them, and right now we're living in a time where knowledge is spreading to and fro, okay? Where knowledge is abounding. So I want to get one more verse in this chapter, and that's verse 21. Let's start at verse 20. And the captivity of the host of the children of Israel, and the captivity of this host of the children of Israel shall possess that of the Canaanites. See, right now it tells us that, right, we are in captivity, but in this day of the Lord, because Obadiah is judgment against Esau. This whole chapter is judgment against Esau. Okay, just how it says in verse 18, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and they shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. Okay, but I wanted to focus on verse 21. And Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. Why? Because Mount Zion is Israel, okay? That's where Mount Zion is located. So the true children, the remnant that the Lord will pick to be the judges, they're going to come upon Mount Zion, and there's going to be they're going to hold court, okay? Hopefully I could be part of that number, okay? Court is going to be held against these war crimes of Esau that have not been justified, okay? All of these years, okay? Nothing has been justified, and our people look for reparations for slavery, but they're not, the so-called white man is not going to give any reparations for slavery because he wants to keep Jacob oppressed, and the elites all of these nations, they know who Jacob is, okay? They know that you Negroes, Latinos, you Native Americans, and all of you others dwelling in these other countries, they know who Jacob is that's dwelling in these countries, okay? Because it's not just the Negro, Latino, and the Native American, but we are all over the world, okay? And they know who you are. They know who you are, all right? Get a little excited sometimes. So excuse me, but now let's get into this 3 strikes law, okay? 3 strikes, because 3 strikes got a lot of people put in prison for life, okay? And even before they amended the 3 strikes law, let's look it up. Let's look up 3 strikes law. I didn't really want to make this too long of a lesson. 3 strikes law. And this was implemented in California. California's 3 strike sentencing law was originally enacted in 1994. The essence of the 3 strikes law was to require a defendant convicted of any new felony having suffered one prior conviction of a serious felony to be sentenced to state prison for twice the term otherwise provided for the crime. So that means that would get double, okay? The purpose of this law is to drastically increase the punishment of those who continue to commit offenses after being convicted of 1 or 2 serious crimes. 28 states have some form of a 3 strikes law, okay? And that's unfairness right there. That is unfairness because, you know, they call it rehabilitation centers, but no one gets rehabbed when going to prison, okay? Unless they rehab themselves. But the state is not offering these people any rehabilitation services because I forget the word for people who repeat the recidivity rate, something like that. Let's see what that word is. Recidivism. Okay, the recidivism rate. Okay, and that's the rate in which people return back to prison. That rate is higher than the people who actually come out of prison reformed. Okay, and better. The people don't come out better. A lot of times they come out worse, being 3 times the criminal than they came in there. Okay, the rate of recidivism. So now since we talking about the 3 strikes law, let's go to Isaiah the 10th chapter. Okay, this is Isaiah 10, but let me write this one in. Let me type this one in. No longer stay on them who smote them. KJV. So this is Isaiah chapter 10 verse 20, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob, and Jacob is Israel. So when you hear Jacob and Israel, they are interchangeable because Jacob's name, he was born Jacob, but the Lord changed his name to Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel in truth. And what is to smite somebody? Let's look what smite is. Let's look up smote. Him who smote him. Smote definition. Strike with a firm blow. So when we talking about 3 strikes, okay, then we going back to that one. Let's read it again. Let's read Isaiah 10:20. Isaiah 10:20. On that day, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One of Israel, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, in truth. Okay? Okay, so we're no longer going to stay upon our enemy. Our enemy is not going to rule over us, okay? Just how it says in one of the Psalms that Moab shall be the washpot, and over Edom he shall cast his shoe. And that's speaking of King David, and for the most part, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai. Okay? And what is a washpot? You see that Moab already does a lot of the washpot stuff. We talking about they work in massage parlors. They work at the laundromats. They work at the nail shops. Okay, they already do a lot of that stuff. And right now, Jake, you do a lot of the hard labor right now. A lot of the ishy work, a lot of the shitty work that nobody else wants to do. They depend on Jacob to do that. But okay, Esau is going to do that. He's going to be that new field nigga. Okay, he's going to be that new field nigga. Now let's go to Job, the 20th chapter. We'll end out there. Because I was also speaking of, when people go to prison, they're also ordered to pay a certain amount of restitution for damages. And we talking about this, we talking about restitution. We talking about this private prisons and this prison industrial complex, okay, and how they privatized it. And this all goes hand in hand with the 13th Amendment, because the 13th Amendment is also called, a lot of people have learned about this in school. They say when the President Abraham Lincoln had freed the slaves, they called that the Emancipation Proclamation, which is the 13th Amendment. Yet while the 13th Amendment did free slaves, there was a clause in that contract stating involuntary servitude can only happen as a means of punishment. So yeah, they freed the slaves under the hand of slave masters, but they made slavery legal as a form of punishment. And this is why you have laws such as the 3 strikes law, and this is why you have the unfairness in judgment when it comes to so-called black people versus so-called white people, because they want to keep you continuously and continually oppressed and under their thumb, and because they get money for that. Okay, so let's go to Job, the 20th chapter, and I'll close out. And this is just to prove that we are the biblical Israelites, okay, especially here in the Americas, because in Jeremiah, I believe it's the 50th or the 51st chapter, it says, let's get that before I even go to, I think it's Jeremiah, I know it's like the 33rd verse, 51, 33, just to prove. Okay, I think it's verse 50. Chapter 50, Let's see what chapter 50 says. Yeah, this is the chapter 50. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Verse 34, their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. he shall thoroughly plead their cause. Why? Because uh, uh, when Jacob goes to trial, they have a plea deal. But the plea deal, who's going to plead their cause? Because the judge certainly is not pleading their cause, and the district attorney works in tandem with the judge to try to get the prison filled up and the jails filled up. Okay. So who's going to plead their cause? Because the people that's supposed to help them, the people who's supposed to rehabilitate them, to try to have the recidivism rate lowered, no, they want to keep them in continual oppression. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. And America is Babylon. Okay, America is this new age Babylon. So when it's talking about Jeremiah, when you go into Jeremiah the 50th chapter, when you go into Jeremiah the 51st chapter, this is talking about America. Okay, so when it says, thus saith the Lord, in the 33rd verse, thus saith the Lord of hosts, Yahweh, the children of Israel and the children of Judah, you Latinos and you Negroes and you Native Americans, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. So that's why they get sentenced to 200 years, 300 years in prison. Okay, because they refuse to let them go. And that's why, you need to try to, us as a people, we need to try to obey, live within the means of these laws as best as we can, because we don't want to be, we don't want to give them any means for them to try to put us in this system where they can make any more money off us and ruin us any more than that we are. Because as it says in Micah the 2nd chapter, I believe, that this is not your rest. It will sorely pollute you. Okay, so this is not a place for us to be in rest at. This is not a place for us to be in rulership and be being heaven on earth. Okay, because this is the so-called white man's rulership right now. So we have to be, we have to follow the laws of our Lord, but we still have to live under the confines of these people's law. And, the Lord is going to justify all of us, okay? Especially his remnant, his elect. But let's get to Job, the 20th chapter. Okay, so it's not going to be very much longer until the Lord comes and sets things right. So we just need to be patient as a people, okay, and try to endure. So, I forgot to put which, I believe it was verse 18. That which he labored for. Okay, let's start at verse 15. He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly. So who is the riches? What did the Lord tell the Israelites? Yahweh Shai, he told them, I believe that was in Revelation chapter 3. He says, I know thy poverty, but thou art rich. Okay, so who's being swallowed down right now? You so-called Israelites. Not you so-called, but you Israelites, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. He has swallowed down riches, and he shall vomit them up again. God shall cast them out of his belly. He shall suck the poison of asp. The viper's tongue shall slay him. He shall not see the rivers, the floods, the brooks of honey and butter. That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein. Because when people get sentenced these sentences, after their sentences, they still have a restitution that they have to pay. A lot of times they still have a restitution for damages that they have to pay. Okay, if they damaged any person, if they killed somebody, they have to pay a restitution. If they damaged property, there's a restitution that has to be paid. Although if they've held a job in prison, they've only been getting paid 5 cents, 10 cents, 15 cents. I've never been to prison, so I don't know the pay rate. But they don't even get paid the minimum wage. They get paid pennies on the dollar. Okay. That which he labored for shall he restore, and shall not swallow it down. According to his substance shall the restitution be, and he shall not rejoice therein, because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly, he shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left, therefore shall no man look for his good. In the fullness of his sufficiency he shall be in straits, every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. Okay, and we seeing that happening nowadays, where these wicked rulers, they're been perpetuating so much wickedness and oppressing the people, that now people are just getting utterly tired of it. And I believe that's in second Esdras, either the 13th chapter, I believe, where it says sedition amongst men, and they will not let's see, just so I don't crush it. Sedition amongst men. KJV. Second Esdras chapter 15 verse 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. Okay, and that's what it means when it says the hand of the wicked shall be on him on every side, because people are going to start revolting. Okay, and you see in a lot of this revolting, and all of these peaceful marches are going to stop, and people are going to eventually get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they're going to start taking violent action. So, hopefully there was somebody got edified. All praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Kakwadash Barakatham. And I want to give shots out to the apostles and the elders and the teachers at the Great Millstone, in which I'm not a part of Great Millstone, but I do take hold on their doctrine. So with that being said, shalom, until the next time.